Chapter 14, Changes. At the beginning of fifth period, Dr. Trindler was waiting for me. No smiles this time, no pleasant chatter. He was sitting behind his desk, all business. He pointed at the chair across from him and said, "Please sit down." Mrs. Drummond was at her desk on the other side of the big window. She was trying to look busy, but I could tell she was tuned in like we were the final episode of her favorite TV show. Dr. Trindler sat there for almost half a minute, doing that spidery thing with his fingers. Then he said, "Can we talk honestly to each other, Nora?" "Sure," I said. He leaned forward with his elbows on the desk. "I had been planning to give you another test today, but 15 minutes ago I observed you speaking to Merton Lake in the cafeteria. And now I don't think another test is really necessary. Do you?" I shrugged. "I don't know." He raised his eyebrows, and one long index finger said, "Remember? We are talking honestly with each other, Nora. I want to know if you think I need to give you another test today." I said, "Depends on what you want to find out." He smiled and said, "That's easy. I want to find out if the score you got on yesterday's test is accurate. What do you think? Was that an accurate score?" I shook my head. "Probably not." Dr. Trindler leaned farther forward. "And why is that?" I didn't answer. Everything was moving too fast. I needed time to think. Dr. Trindler thought he already knew I was a genius, and he also thought that I knew that he knew. But he really didn't know anything, not for sure. So I thought, maybe I can bluff my way out of this. Maybe I can take another test and really mess it up. And then Dr. Trindler couldn't prove anything, except that he's a lousy test giver. Or maybe I could. And then I stopped. I just stopped. I was tired of it. I was tired of always holding back. I was tired of acting like I didn't understand things. I was tired of pretending to be average. It wasn't true. Dr. Trindler repeated his question. "Why do you think yesterday's test score wasn't accurate, Nora?" I looked him right in the eye. "Because the score is too low. Everything I missed on purpose." Dr. Trindler's mind tried to process that, and I could see him trying to recalculate my IQ in his head, but he couldn't do it. So I said, "The simplest way to estimate a more accurate score is to increase the raw score to the 99th percentile range and then adjust for my age. Because I don't think I would have missed more than 1 or 2 questions on the whole test, not if I had done my best." Dr. Trindle thought about it for a second and said, "But why didn't you want to do your best?" I didn't say anything, so he said, "And I don't understand about your report card either. Can you tell me a little about that, about all the D's?" I didn't want to talk about this with Dr. Trindler. I knew what he wanted. He wanted to have a deep conversation with me. He wanted to work up a theory about me and about my problem. Maybe try to link my behavior to some incident in my past. Or maybe it was my mom and dad's fault. Or maybe I had deep hidden fears. And I knew enough about psychology to know that Dr. Trindler would never get it right, because my reasons would be too simple. Not wanting to be pushed to achieve all the time was not a psychological problem I was having. It was an intelligent choice. And if I had been working up to my potential, could I really have been best friends with a regular kid like Stephen? Fat chance. I changed the subject. "Are you going to give me another test?" He said, "No, I don't think so." Dr. Trindler paused, and then he said, "You know that I'm going to share my findings with Mrs. Hackney, don't you?" I nodded. He said, and you understand why I need to tell her about your scores?" I said, "Sure. My mom and dad asked for the testing, and the school has to give them my scores, and it's Mrs. Hackney's job to tell them. Mr. Trindler nodded. That's correct. He paused again, waiting for me to keep talking, but I didn't. So he said, Is there anything you'd like to talk about, Nora? I shook my head. No, thanks. Well, he said, if something does come up and you think I might be a help, you can always find me, okay? I nodded and said okay, and I smiled a little because I could tell Dr. Trindler just wanted to help. A minute later, I was walking through the empty halls, headed for Mrs. Zhang's room and the second half of science class. It was still the same day, and it was the same school with the same teachers and the same kids. But something was different. Me.